Hey guys, welcome to Brian's Man Cave. So today's just another question for gamers. I like to do these every once in a while. It's fun just as a discussion piece. I mean, typically I don't ask questions that are yes or no answers. Really just to kind of throw the discussion out there and just kind of talk about it because it's fun. And I've been thinking of this one for a little bit because, you know, it's constantly relevant. It's happening all the time. And it's around video games being turned into movies. Now we all know there's been a lot of movies turned into video games. We've played a lot of them back in the Nintendo days. You know, there's a certain company that made a lot of them that were just really bad. You know, games like Back to the Future, where it was what were they thinking, and you know, Terminator, Die Hard, Dick Tracy. I mean, the list goes on. Jaws. They made lots and lots of games after movies. But then we also started to see movies being inspired by video games themselves. And so some of the earlier ones, you know, you would think of would be like Super Mario Brothers, which is a debate on whether that's a good movie or not. And then there's, of course, there was some like Double Dragon that came out, and Mortal Kombat, which, you know, they did a good job. And let's not forget Sonic. I mean, Sonic the Hedgehog is happening, and we're going to get that movie soon. They did make a trailer on it, and again, how do you take something like, you know, from the video game where you got this little blue hedgehog that can run around in circles and speed up and go through all these crazy crap, and how do you take that and bring it into reality? Not an easy feat, not and by any means. Kind of like with the Super Mario Brothers movie, where they had to kind of change things around, and people weren't too happy with those changes. People weren't happy with the way that Sonic looked, the way he behaved, and all that stuff. So apparently they're working on changing that, and they've moved the launch date of that. But that could be because of what's, you know, it's just very difficult to take something like Sonic and make it look real. I mean, without it looking cartoonish. So we'll see where that goes. But then you start getting into some of the newer games, some of the games that are like on the PlayStation, Xbox, all that type of stuff, like Silent Hill and Resident Evil, all those kinds of games. And if you think about it, the visuals are there. So when you compare, say, something like Super Mario Brothers, where the game is very almost cartoonish, in a sense, you got the Nintendo graphics, versus something like Resident Evil, where it's very real. I mean, you're looking at the screen and it almost looks real. And I guess that's, you know, that's a big divide when it comes to, say, modern gaming in a sense, and retro gaming. Now, I say modern gaming in a sense because they still make new games today that resemble or look like the old 2D style games. But typically when I think of modern gaming, I think of the point in time where games started becoming more three-dimensional. They started to becoming more looking like reality, trying to look like real life. That's usually where I start to draw the you know, you might disagree, but that's where I see modern gaming at. So even when I played games like Tomb Raider, I started to notice that there was a shift in the way that video games were starting to move towards. And so, I mean, certain games of the past would have been really tricky to try and create a movie out of it. And I think that's the problem that we ran into with the Super Mario Brothers, is like, how do you take what you saw on the screen there of Mario jumping around on the clouds and all that, and turn that into something realistic? And so they really had to change the story around. They had to come up with this whole de-evolution thing. They had to turn King Koopa into just Koopa, which, you know, he was no longer you know, the dragon he was, or whatever he is, and, you know, the video games, he's now this, like, half lizard, half man type of guy. So, you see they had to stretch. But then there was other things, like Double Dragon. I saw parts of that movie. To me, it didn't, I don't know. It didn't come across as fun. And Street Fighter. There was a movie on Street Fighter, again, you know, it had Van Damme in it and stuff. But it was tricky to take something like that. Now, again, it's a fighting game. Mortal Kombat, the same idea. They had to try and take something and build a storyline around it that you didn't really have in the video game. The video game was more like just a straight-on, let's kick the crap out of each other. today's movies now, we got movies like Rampage, where again they're taking an old movie, or an old game I should say, and really in Rampage, the video game, you were just playing as one of the three characters, the wolf, the lizard, the ape, and you were just climbing buildings, smashing them, grabbing people, eating them, hitting helicopters, and that was it. They had to like take that and create a movie around it, and of course they had to throw The Rock in there. And then they made a movie on Doom, where, you know, it's interesting that they had to figure out how to create a whole movie out of a video game where you're always looking through the perspective of one person. And they did an okay job in the middle of the movie. I remember they did show some scenes where it was through that perspective. But again, they had to create a whole storyline out of it. And it was kind of, you know, it's interesting that they did that. But did it really work? There's some other games that, you know, there's questionable ideas on. Like I've heard that there's supposed to be a Tetris movie. I'm still not, I haven't heard 100% on this one. People keep talking about there's the potential of a Tetris movie. I'm like, how are you going to make a movie out of Tetris? I mean, but it'd be interesting to see if they can pull it off. Now, mind you, we did have movies like Pixels, where it included video games in the movie. And in fact, with Pixels, you do see the Tetris blocks in there. You see the Pong, and you see all the little characters. But that was meant to be more of a, you know, a campier, kind of a fun movie. So unless you're going to go into something like The Wizard, where it's just a movie about people playing video games, or Cloak and Dagger, where they're just showing video games, but to incorporate the actual physical video games into the movie, it makes it tricky. So the question is, what do you prefer? Do you prefer when they try and take the old retro stories and build a movie around it? Or do you prefer where they take your favorite modern game and turn that into a movie? So that's the question just to throw out there. Love to hear your comments, your thoughts, what you think. Throw it all down below. This is just for fun, just conversation piece. And let me know what your favorite movies are that are based on video games, if any. And maybe throw some ideas out there what you would hope to see come into this world. Anyways, hope you liked the video. Hope you subscribe to my channel. Talk to you later.